At this point, are we even allowed to be surprised? Let us not forget the Sony hacks revealed Sony was once working on an Aunt May solo movie. Aunt May! Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. We have details on two new Spider-Man spin-off films that Sony insists us, the public, want to see. I'll be detailing these two characters' origins, maybe why it would make sense in their Sony Spider-Man Spider-Verse, connections to the MCU, and so much more. So I need you guys to leave your thoughts down below. Are you even willing to watch this? Or are you on the side of most fans like, why? But also be sure to leave a like because these weird spin-off movies are the only thing that's keeping Spider-Man in the MCU. So bring on that Aunt May movie, Sony. So the story comes to us exclusively from the Illuminati. I know it's probably a publication you guys aren't too familiar with, but lately they have been on a roll of correctly getting exclusives on movies and TV shows, specifically Marvel and Sony related projects. They were first on the scene to bring to us She-Hulk information and the fact that Bruce Banner would be in that show. But now they bring to us these two new projects that really are just a head scratcher like, Sony, how do you think this is going to make money? Starting off with the one that is probably the biggest turn in left field in the character most of us don't even know. I'm a big Spider-Man fan and I had no idea who this guy was. A character entitled Solo, who as he's described right now is also known as James Bourne, is a counter-terrorism specialist who is a master of hand-to-hand combat and firearms. He also has cybernetic implants that allow him to teleport short distances. The guy has been a foe to Spider-Man before, but in many of those early encounters with Spider-Man, it was always a misunderstanding that had them fight each other. Nowadays in modern Marvel comics, he is a straight up hero that helps Spider-Man on occasion. And Sony is just really attempting to continue to build off their Sony Spider-Man universe with all these Spider-Man characters. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that these solo movies are kind of the thing that are keeping Spider-Man in the MCU. From the behind the scenes understanding from what is going on right now with Marvel, we know Tom Holland only has two movies left with the MCU. A solo Spider-Man movie and a team-up movie, whether it be Avengers or him joining another character in his own movie. Once those two films are complete, it'll be up to Sony and Disney to work out a deal to continue having Peter Parker in the MCU or to snatch him away and dump him in the universe where Venom, Morbius, and all these other solo Spider-Man films are coming up for Spider-Man to play around in that area. And the most recent trailer of Morbius makes it very clear that this film is gonna be making connections to the larger MCU, at least things that directly tie into Tom Holland's Spider-Man. With having the Vulture show up at the end, with obviously mentions of Spider-Man being a bad guy with the way he was framed at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, bringing in a character like Solo who would be a straight up hero leads me to believe that this could be the main character for the Sony Spider-Man universe. Because Spider-Man is going to be super busy dealing with the mainstream heroes that affect his world, whether it Avengers related or characters like Mysterio, Vulture, and whatnot start popping up. And Sony continuing to build these movies on lesser known characters that we know are not going to be showing up in Spider-Man 3, 4, 5, or even 6 if they get there. Eventually, Sony needs somebody to fight off Morbius the Living Vampire, Venom, and a character like Solo, who is a hero that is very tech-based, has his own abilities, could work out as the main character for the Sony Spider-Man universe. And as crazy as it might sound and as really weird as this is, Sony is attempting to try and do their own Guardians of the Galaxy or their own Eternals, where they bring out a really out there character, hoping that they can create a good movie, making this character popular and famous in the same way Captain America and Iron Man were turned mainstream back with the first couple of Marvel movies. But it's this second Spider-Man movie in early development that makes the most sense to me and has actually already been set up in the first Venom. A character known as Man-Wolf, who actually might sound familiar to a lot of Spider-Man fans, I know I was familiar with this guy when I saw his name, is basically an alien werewolf that is a villain for Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson III is the son of Daily Bugle Chief J. Jonah Jameson, who we now know is in the MCU and the Spider-Man universe because of that cameo at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. The youngest Jameson was an astronaut who discovered a mysterious lunar rock on an expedition to the moon. Upon his return to Earth, the astronaut found himself transforming into the werewolf known as Man-Wolf. And I mentioned to you guys that his origin has basically already been set up at the beginning of Venom. If you paid attention to the beginning of Venom, you will have a bunch of astronauts who crash land onto Earth, risking their lives and also bringing the symbiote into the universe. If you pay attention, one of the paramedics names one of the astronauts as J. Jameson. At first view, when I saw that movie, I was like, oh, okay, that's a fun little Easter egg to the astronaut related to J. Jonah Jameson. Who knows if it's actually him or it's just an Easter egg thrown out there for us fans. Heck, we even saw this character in the original Spider-Man trilogy with Sam Raimi, and the character really never amounted to anything other than being left at the altar. Poor guy. But we've basically already seen the origin of this character on the big screen. He went to space, something happened, his character is said to be dead. But if we're going off the comic book origin, NASA actually takes him in, tells the public he is dead, and do all these experiments and find out why he is able to turn into this werewolf just from his encounter in space. Eventually being able to escape, contacting his father. There's a lot you could actually do with a Man-Wolf movie, and you could seriously have J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, as a big supporting role, helping his son, trying to figure out why he's this way, and doing the best he can to fix him. The article makes it a point that this movie seemed appealing because of the success of The Invisible Man, and you can't deny Man-Wolf is very much a character like the Wolfman. So it could be Sony dipping their toes into a sort of Universal Monster universe, where they give us a very horror-like film of a man unable to control himself turn into this werewolf, and I'd actually really be down to see that. I'm just so shocked that Sony is really trying to go ahead and start this universe with such odd looking characters, but I laughed so hard at the idea of Morbius, and the living vampire movie was never something I was even remotely interested in. But I gotta admit, that trailer makes the movie very watchable, and I'm gonna be there day one when that comes out, hoping it kind of connects the universe and makes it feel a little more full. How do you Spider-Man fans feel about these spin-off films? Do you actually think they'll eventually get made, or will Morbius not performing well go ahead and stop them from making these movies? Be sure to like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Film Review. As always, I'm Chris. Take care.